Hey there everyone, John with Crow's Nest Craft. Today I'm going to be doing a dollar store D&D build. I bought some of these Bakugan surprise bag minis. I bought 5 bags. I got all 4 options that they have listed here. So pretty lucky on that. And Bakugan, I don't know too much about it. It wasn't my thing when I was a kid. And I guess they're still a thing. But they're like these robot monster dudes. And I'm going to take them and make some Clockwork D&D minis out of them. I'm gonna put this lion, this dragon-like dude for the tail, and this other dragon-like dude together to make a Clockwork Manticore. And then gonna keep this T-Rex kind of the way he is to make a Clockwork T-Rex. And then this last dude, I think I'm gonna add the heads and maybe a few other things to make a Clockwork Hydra kind of a thing. So let's get started and see how it goes. Hey there, so starting off we are going to be chopping up the lion robot thing. So I'm going to be chopping off the muzzle to give it more of a robotic humanoid face. Doesn't have to be super humanoid, but manticores are supposed to have kind of a human face. So I'm going to give this more of a warforged face than humanoid, you know what I mean? Since it's going to be clockwork. So I'm going to start with that, and then I'm just going to be chopping up some of the wings and taking parts off of these guys that I'm going to want to glue on in, well, another arrangement. So let's get to it. We'll chop off some more, and we'll start gluing it on. Alright, so now I'm going to hit it with the glue gun, and this is just going to be an initial glue down to make sure it has a good hold to it. I'm going to use it on a high heat because it'll actually bond better to this kind of plastic, almost like melting to it. So I'll do an initial glue down with the hot glue, and then after I glue the tails and the wings and stuff onto these minis, I'm going to do a coating with super glue around the joints. That way it has a stronger and more solid hold. So it's important to have a nice base on your mini. So I'm going to be using some dollar store foam board. I'm going to be cutting it just kind of to the rough shape that I want. I'll be eyeballing it, as you can see. And after that, I'll take each of the bases and I'll also take the box cutter and just kind of go along the edges and kind of cut it like it's on an angle and give it kind of a cliff look. So I'll kind of jaggedly bring the box cutter around the edge and make it look like a stone base. Now I'm going to pull out the hot glue gun again and just glue the figures onto the bases. Alright, so now I'm going to be using one of a terrain / mini builder's favorite weapons in their arsenal, and this is a Mod Podge and paint mix. It makes a really good coating to put on anything that you want to have like the same texture. So if you're putting two different toys together, or two different types of material in general that you want to have the same consistency and hold paint in a similar way, because foam holds paint a lot differently than plastic does. So you just cover it all in this. It'll give a really nice seal on the foam, and it will also give it the same consistency so the paint looks the same on the foam as it does on the plastic. So I'm going to coat this in a black paint and Mod Podge and move on from there. So now that I got a nice seal on the foam with the black paint and Mod Podge, I'm going to hit it with a spray primer. It's important to put some sort of coating like a Mod Podge on foam before you spray paint it so it doesn't just immediately melt. Sometimes you can use the melt to your advantage to make it look like a rough stone, but I kind of want it clean because I'm going to be doing kind of like a field look to it once it's finished. So we're just going to hit it with a gray primer, and then we'll move on to our base coat of paint after that. So now we'll hit it with a base coat, and as you can assume, since it is a Clockwork monster build, I'm going to be base coating with a metallic paint, and the metallic paint I'm going to be using is a Vallejo Game Color paint, and it's just called Gunmetal, and it's going to give a nice darker metal base, and there I can add some highlights and other stuff from it. So we'll start by throwing this down, and we'll move on to a few other colors. Alright, so now that the gunmetal base is down, I want to do some accent spots. So those spots are going to be like the joints, the knee plates, the elbow plates, tips of the wings, and that kind of stuff. Wherever it would look good to accent it, I'm going to hit that with a brass color. And the color I'm actually using is called Dwarven Gold, but it looks a lot more like a light brass, and it's going to be a lot easier for me to put some shading on it than it would be the darker brass. So I'm going to hit those spots with that. Now that I have all the metals painted, I'm going to move on to the base. So I'm just going to pick out an earthy brown, and I'm going to hit all of the foam bases with that. Alright, so now we're going to be doing a wash. So I'm going to start by using a sepia wash on all of the brass parts, because it's going to look a lot better than just using a black wash on everything. Now I'm going to put a black wash on the gunmetal parts. I'm going to start by using an Army Painter wash, which is just a pre-made wash. But I didn't really like the way it was coming out. I only really did it on the Hydra Mini. But now I'm going to be using a wash that I made myself. And how I made it is just some black paint, some dish soap actually as a flow aid, and then about 3/4 water. You can kind of just play with it a little bit. There's not an actual like recipe that I use. I just kind of eyeball it, and once I get a consistency I like, that's what I use. So I'm gonna hit it with that and then move on. Alright, now that I put a shade on everything, I'm going to move on to some highlights. So I'm just going to be using some more of a golden color, a little bit lighter, and a lighter silver color to do some highlighting around the edges of different pieces, just to show a little bit more contrast. Now I want a bright color for the eyes, so I'm going to be using a super bright green to really stand out. For the base, I'm not going to be doing a whole lot of highlighting. I'm just going to do some dry brushing. So I'm going to use this makeup brush I got from the dollar store, and I'm going to take some light brown paint and just go around the edges and do a light dry brushing, and that'll do it. Now, this is one of the most satisfying parts for me. I'm going to be using this Elmer's Craft glue to kind of just coat the base. And then after I coat the base in this glue, I'm going to stick it in a bag of grass flocking. You can get it at most hobby shops. So you stick it in the bag, you shake it around like shake and bake, and it'll get the base nice and covered with a grassy look, and it'll look awesome when it's all done. And voila! So as you can see, this is the Hydra Mini. I think it came out pretty darn cool. Next up, we got the T-Rex, which I absolutely love the way this came out. This is the one I didn't really do any changes to, didn't chop it up at all, just painted it. Now for my favorite, the Manticore. I absolutely love the way this one came out. I always tend to like the projects that I chop up and Frankenstein a bit more than the others, so that's probably why this one's my favorite. So the gang's all here. Very happy with the way all three of these came out. A relatively easy build. I would recommend this to most beginners. It was a lot of fun. I'm glad you could join me with this. Hey there, thanks for watching me build my little guys. I had a lot of fun with this. Here's the Manticore again. I have a love for any monster that's a combination of a bunch of different beasts like owl bears, chimeras, and of course manticores. So this guy was a lot of fun to make, and the clockwork aspect was fun to play with. I will say there's a little bit of flex to them, but really isn't too much different than like the Bones minis. It's pretty much a very similar plastic that they're made out of actually, and it actually took detail better than I thought. I'm not a pro painter, but I think they look pretty good. So thanks again for watching and supporting my channel here on YouTube, which is pretty new. And thanks if you're coming over from TikTok and if you've seen my TikToks before. So check me out over there. I'm trying to do some Instagram stuff where I'm posting pictures of my minis too. So go through my link tree if you really want. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.